Welcome, weary traveler, to a brand new explainer. Go ahead and pull up a chair because today we're crossing deep into the soul's borderlands. I'm going to be your weary chronicler for this journey, and I've got to warn you right up front, we're diving into the exhausting internal war of the human psyche. And spoiler alert, trying to just hit delete on your darkest instincts, yeah, that almost never goes as planned. This whole story is really about the hidden danger of seeking absolute purity. We'll see how trying to erase our messy, chaotic nature can actually lead us straight into a trap that's way more suffocating. So, our tale centers around this figure known as the Pale Inquisitor, or the Ghost of Law. Picture him standing out there in the gray mist of the mind, caught between two shadows. And the wild thing is, both of these shadows are entirely his own, yet they feel completely alien to him. Honestly, it's a brilliant metaphor for anyone who's ever wrestled with destructive habits or intrusive thoughts, right? I mean, we all have that inner messy draft we just wish we could completely erase. But as we're about to see, trying to force that chaotic draft into a perfect, rigid tapestry comes with a terrifying cost. Now, let's break down what the Inquisitor was actually caught between. On one side, you have the Silver Wolf. This represents the id-driven primal self. We're talking pure, chaotic noise, a raw hunger that the Inquisitor literally views as a deadly contagion threatening his entire cosmic design. But on the other side, we have what the wolf eventually becomes, the Wild Verdant. This is the incorporated Jungian shadow, acting as a rigid tapestry of absolute law. We're going to trace this incredibly dangerous journey from wild, untamed chaos to absolute, suffocating law. Okay, so in the very beginning, the Inquisitor followed a pretty harsh philosophy, purification through subtraction. He basically used an internal scourge and a spectral bell to hunt down every single flawed part of himself, just desperately trying to silence that chaotic noise. His ultimate goal, he thought if he could just edit his soul down to a single blank page, he'd finally be free. Imagine trying to aggressively Marie Kondo your own soul, literally trying to subtract all the messy, imperfect parts of your existence until you achieve this state of perfect, law-abiding nothingness. And honestly, think about how often we do this in our own lives. We convince ourselves, hey, if I can just completely eliminate this one bad habit or silence this one dark thought, I'll be clean, I'll be holy. The Inquisitor totally believed that killing the beast was the only real path to purity. He was chasing the safety of the void. But here's the catch. A vacuum is entirely unnatural. You simply can't delete a core part of your psychology and expect that page to stay blank forever. Something is always going to rush in to fill that empty space. So the Inquisitor's journey absolutely does not end in the void. Instead, he experiences this massive paradigm shift known as the dark apoptosis of the Emerald Staff. And this completely changes the geometry of his devotion. This grand realization just hits him with devastating clarity. The Silver Wolf, that raw primal id, cannot be deleted. It's impossible. However, it can be used. It can be weaponized. Which brings us to the real-world psychological weight of the incorporated Jungian shadow. Now, normally in psychology, integrating your shadow means acknowledging your dark side so you can heal and become whole. But what we're looking at here is a corrupted integration. The Inquisitor stops fighting the beast, sure, but instead of healing the darkness, he enslaves it. He forces those raw, chaotic instincts entirely into the service of absolute law. So the chaos is turned into order, but not through peace, through absolute subjugation. And that is the grim paradox of the Inquisitor's evolution. We shift entirely from the era of erasure, hunting for that pristine, blank vacuum, straight into the era of entrapment. The chaotic energy of the predator isn't actually gone. It's just been channeled into these iron-thorned briars, grown with the vitriol ink of regret. The whole journey becomes a descent into a self-imposed prison. By forcing the predator to serve the law, the wildness is preserved, but it's now completely overgrown with heavy, suffocating spectral vines. So the transformation is absolute. Back when he was a seeker of the vacuum, the Inquisitor was the spectral judge wielding a shroud, ruling over a completely empty void. But by incorporating his shadow in this twisted way, he evolves into the Inquisitor of the Overgrowth. He becomes a monastic warden. And his new job? He's guarding a living grave. He essentially traded the impossible task of erasing his mind for the exhausting, never-ending reality of constantly policing it. At this point, the Inquisitor no longer even wants a blank page. Instead, he's woven a singular, rigid tapestry. That raw desire of the Silver Wolf hasn't been cured at all. It's just been trapped deep under the suffocating web of the Wild Verdant. His mind becomes so utterly consumed by maintaining order and absolute law that the soul can't even move anymore. It is completely pinned down, paralyzed by the sheer crushing weight of its own micromanaged darkness.
Which leads us to the profound, really heartbreaking climax of our parable. The Inquisitor finally understands the true cost of his control. Because when you spend all your energy suppressing your nature, weaponizing your deepest flaws just to maintain order, you end up losing your freedom entirely. The Inquisitor has this chilling realization. You have stopped trying to kill the predator only to realize you have become the cage. You aren't the hunter anymore. You're the architect of the grave.
He traded the hunt for purity for the absolute finality of the overgrowth. The void was all about the impossible safety of being completely clean. But the overgrowth? That's about the finality of being in total control. But we really have to ask, what is the actual cost of that control? If you completely paralyze your own soul with rules and integrated shadows, yeah, you might not make a mistake, you might not succumb to chaotic noise, because it's true, only the dead and the trapped cannot fail. But a trapped soul isn't truly living, is it?
So, weary traveler, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative question about how you manage your own internal darkness. When you're trying to master your own silver wolf, your own messy drafts and chaotic noise, are you actually clearing a peaceful void? Or are you, just like the Pale Inquisitor, acting as the monastic warden of a living grave? Take a good look at your own rigid tapestries. Because sometimes true self-mastery isn't about building a stronger cage, it's about learning how to walk alongside the wolf. Until our paths cross again in the borderlands, tread carefully, traveler.